Hi everyone. Okay, so this is my second video. You can see my introduction on the last video that I did on my channel. I hope that you guys subscribe. I'm going to be doing a video each week. So I'm gonna release it every Sunday. So hopefully you enjoy them. So the main idea for doing this channel is just to give information and create awareness, right? Because I believe that information is very empowering and can create a lot of awareness of why we act the way that we act and why we are the way we are. And that's a big piece in change, just having that awareness. Now, the more that I do this work, the more that I understand that there's nothing about us that is by chance. Like everything has a reason to be. And the more that we understand that, the more compassion we can have with ourselves and understanding of our reactions. So we have a lot of automatic reactions, and a lot of the times people can't understand them. And a lot of the times people think that we can just willpower our way through them. And we end up judging ourselves a lot for having the reactions that we do. But people oftentimes don't understand that there's a reason that these reactions come about. And they're very complex, okay? So I'm gonna touch on that on other videos. But this video, I wanted to do it to talk about the brain and the beginning of our life, really. So before we are born, we are wiring already. And I'm gonna show you a video. I'm gonna show you a picture of a brain. Now, obviously, this picture is not perfect, but I figured this is the way I do it with my clients. So hopefully, I mean, they don't mind. My brain looks like a bean, but bear with me because I'm gonna illustrate the point here that I'm trying to make. So before we are born, we already have neurons in our brain. Neurons help, just neural pathways in our brain just really dictate the way that we function, okay? So if you go online and just search, like Google, like a picture of the brain, you will see how it's broken down like in different parts, and some like different parts of the brain are in charge of different functioning. So the neural networks that you see in the brain kind of like look like this, and you actually can Google just like neurons, neural connections, and you will find, you can actually see what they look like. So we have billions of them, okay, in our brain. And when we are born, we already have some of these connections, because otherwise, obviously, we wouldn't be alive. But in these connections too, like what is determined here is the connections that we make about people and the way we perceive life. And that's, in psychology, I think, like a huge part of why we are the way that we are. Now, when babies are born, they're literally wired for connection, and they're wired to connect to another human being. And the human being who's receiving them, usually their parent or their caregiver, right, is usually, I say receiving them, like not like the doctor, but like they're like coming home to a caring caregiver, right? And ideally, this caregiver is very attuned to the child's needs. So when that child cries, that adult goes and keeps this child safe. Like they attend to their needs, they feed them, they change the diaper, and sometimes babies cry just because they want hugs and love and comfort. And so an adult who's attuned to that and who's able to provide that will help the baby make connections, like neural connections of, my needs matter, they're important. If I need someone, like somebody's going to be there for me. If I am uncomfortable, other people come and try to help me. Other people regulate me. I feel comfortable around other people. So yeah, so since we're babies, we're already understanding based on these neural connections that we're making, or based on these interactions we're having with other people, we're making connections in our brain of how relationships are. So if babies, let's say I'm a baby who has a parent who's not regulated, who gets frustrated very easily, what happens is that when the baby cries, the parent gets frustrated, or they're just not regulated, and even though they're holding the baby, they're like annoyed. The baby can sense that, and that information travels through the baby's body, and then they make the connection of, this doesn't feel right. I'm not getting regulated. I'm annoying other people. I'm a burden to other people. My needs are not important. And can you imagine like a baby, right, who has parents who not only can't really tune in or regulate them, but that they yell and scream at the baby. There's actually studies that show that when there's extreme neglect and the baby's crying, which is the only way that they can communicate that something's going on with them, right? That when the baby's crying and nobody comes, they actually can get to a point where they stop crying. Can you imagine that? Like, you're hungry, your diaper needs to get changed, but you stop crying because you know no one's coming. So what happens in those situations is that the connections on the brain become, people aren't safe, people can't help me, I am alone, I'm not lovable, I'm not important. You get like the idea, right? And so sometimes we can think, oh, well, yeah, but like if that happened when they were little, then they cannot grow it. Studies show that the first year of life is actually pretty crucial to a baby's development. So actually there's studies that show that if a baby, the first year of life, they had a really, really good upbringing, and then for some reason something happened, and then later on, like the next 10 years were really hard on that child, that actually is less traumatizing, or it impacts the brain less than if that child had a really bad upbringing the first year of life and then the next 10 years were good. Yeah, so just so that you get a sense of how crucial that first year is for children. Now, when we think about these, we often don't think that they're as important because it's only a baby, right? Like, it's only the first year of life. However, we have begun to understand that this is usually how we understand people to be in general. So if I have a parent who can't attune to my needs, and I feel like I'm a burden, and I feel like I'm not important, or my needs aren't important, or my needs don't matter, or I can't ask for help, usually if I grow up like that in an environment like that, when I'm an adult and I find a relationship, usually I will tend to fall back in the same type of pattern, because that's what I know. Now, there's a couple of theories of why this happens, and one of them says that we're trying to recreate the same environment so that we break it, right? So that we can complete it. So that we can complete that and change it. And the other theory is that this is what our brain knows, and since this is what our brain knows, it will try to recreate the same patterns because it feels safe. Now, you might say, how does a dysfunctional relationship feel safe, right? The thing is that our brain knows that and has adapted to that. And even though it's not a good situation, it already knows how to survive it. And so when you want to introduce something different, even if that different is a safe relationship, the brain feels like it feels very suspicious of it, and it's very careful with it because it's like, this doesn't sound right, like it doesn't feel right. And in reality, what's making it not feel right is the fact that we don't really have a pattern in our brain. We don't have neural connections that say, when I need something, somebody's there, right? Like, oh, like that feels so uncomfortable. Or like, even this is something I tell my clients all the time. Like, how many times do you complain about like not getting help from people around you, and then when people around you want to help you, you jump and do it yourself, and they always laugh because they're like, yeah, like that's exactly what I do. Like, I completely get it, because it happens so much to where we're fighting for something, we're fighting to break the pattern, but when the pattern is actually going to break, then we freak out and we go back to what we know. And so this is completely normal. This is the way that we react. I mean, it is in early wiring. So yeah, so just being very aware of that is super important. And this is just one piece that I wanted to teach you. Okay, so this is this week's content, and hopefully you enjoyed it. Go ahead and subscribe so that you can keep up with the different videos. And I have my Instagram account. If you're not following me there, I'm going to be posting it on the comments. So yeah, take care and see you next week. Bye.